with Chris Williams.
That's right, Chris.
Let's do it. Two S's.
That's two S's. That's
Two
right.
S's. Not everyone gets a second S.
No. Only special people.
Special
No,
people.
that's right. That's right.
I'm Boris with two S's.
That's right. Yeah. Oh yeah, Boris. That's right.
No, I don't have two S's.
Yeah.
But people do spell it sometimes with two R's for some reason.
Why?
I have no idea. A few times it happened. I'm like,
even think about
never
doing
heard of
that.
such a thing.
Boris.
Yeah. So Chris is a filmmaker, a juggler,
A juggler.
a unicycle driver.
And I direct as I do. Okay, I'm going to ask you to just do it a little softer. Remember, your mother left you all by yourself. And action.
So what should we talk about first? We talk about a million different
I want
things.
to try and do
But
that.
you did a couple of features, a bunch of
Yep.
shorts. You're a lawyer. You're a professor.
All of those
You're a
things.
father. You own a cat. I don't know.
Yeah.
A million different things. So
Yeah, well, you know what's funny, Boris, is that I realize you're one of my oldest friends.
you're one of the.
That's right.
I would say within the first 10 people I met when I moved here. So
Yeah, and I didn't know that until Lori and I Lori, my wife, we're still floored by that. We just assumed that Boris always existed. We never imagined that he.
time before.
Yeah, that there was
BB.
before Boris. Yeah.
But yeah, when I moved to the U.S., you got to school and you were there. Leon was there.
Yeah.
A few other people there.
Oh, I didn't know you guys went that far back.
That far back. Yeah.
Because that was when I came back from grad school when you came back. But originally that was.
Oh, so you were an undergrad.
Yeah, I was an undergrad.
That's right. Of course, you
Yeah.
were an undergrad. That's right. That's
Yeah.
right. Oh, that's what year was that?
95.
Oh, yeah.
96, 95.
Yeah.
Oh, so you're a kid.
No.
He was left back.
You'll always be a kid in my eyes.
Thank you.
He took 2 years for every year.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, I begrudgingly finished college.
begrudgingly.
That is spite.
Claws as they pulled you
Yeah.
to give you your degree.
Yeah.
Did you take it and wave it? And I take this under protest.
Yeah. I did.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, it was
Yeah,
as if
you
I
were
was
there.
there. Yeah. Okay.
So how'd you get into film? Like what got you into that?
Yeah, well, this is a story I tell students who are upset that at 18 they're in college and they think, I know what I want to do. And they're forced to take some, can I curse?
Yeah.
They're forced to take some bullshit class.
It's most of the class.
Right,
in
some
college.
bullshit class,
That's why
some
I
general
begrudgingly-
education requirement, using this, the idea of the liberal model of, taking and being a well-rounded student. And for me, I had to take an art class. I was a business major. And I was like, why the hell do I have to take an art
I
class?
remember that.
Yeah,
Right.
and I said, I always liked film. I used to take Super 8 movies. That looks easy. Let me do it. And the film department at Montclair State was in this little building, and you could smoke on campus. So it was a completely different world than the business world. And I had taken all those business courses, and I remember I walked in there, and I didn't know what was going on. Everybody was wearing black, and they were all cool kids, and all of this. And I took a class, and I had Daryl Wilson. Michael Saporin was on sabbatical, so Daryl
So that was
Wilson.
a year before.
Yeah. He was this cool downtown filmmaker. He wore boots and jeans, and I remember he was like, "Yeah, just take the camera, do whatever you want. Shoot the sky, shoot your feet." And I'm like, "What the fuck? Like, what am I shoot the sky, shoot my feet?" But I was like, and so I started, and I just fell in love with it, and met some wonderful students, and the art kids were wonderful, and I really felt like I met my people. And that just changed my life. And so I had already taken a bunch of the business classes, so I was just taking every film class I could take, and I met you and Leon and Eric Bross and Stefan. They were the older kids. They were the older kids, and I remember they shot once with Sync Sound.
Oh,
that was
you had to spend 3 years before you got to that camera.
Sound.
It was
We
only
had
one.
black and white. There
Only
was
one
one.
camera.
And I remember this Dave. What was Dave's name?
Oh
Dave
yes, Dave
Sanders. Yeah. He made a film. It was a guy on horseback, and it was in color. and it had sound.
They had real
And I
horses.
remember he had real horses. I remember sitting in that room going, I can't believe what I'm seeing. It's a guy on a horse, and I can hear it. It was magical. It was magical. And they would make these films and come back, and Stefan would talk to us. He'd offer us suggestions, and I remember Stefan, I still think this way. He's like a god to me. He's like, we're both older, and we're in our 50s, but he still is like a god to me. I just look at him
You
and
still ask him about the little
I do.
camera?
And every now and then he had a new camera. This was a few years ago. He said, Chris, let me show you this camera. And I perked up like a student. Yes, sir. And he was just,
He's a big tech guy.
that was
so
it. He knows his stuff. So that was just my world. And, at the same time, Spike Lee hit, black film, all of that stuff.
All the way
so,
of independent films.
everything was happening
Pearson
there.
Middle, like
That's right, John
5, 6 years.
Pearson. That's right. A whole bunch of films were coming out, and so I applied to film school. I got in, and went to NYU. And that's just I always wanted to teach because Seporin was like a god to me, and I thought teaching was the thing. I wanted to make films, but I always wanted to teach, and so that was it. But the stupid requirement to take an art class. So I tell this to my students that you never know. Your life can completely change because it's a dumb class you think you don't want to take. You're forced to take it. And suddenly you realize, at 18, I don't know what I want to do with my life.
Yeah. And by 30, you change your mind. And by 50, you're doing something completely different. Now, where did you make Bloods on the Moon? Was that NYU? Or was
that was my thesis from at NYU.
But Sucking Lemons.
Sucking Lemons was that was it. That was.
I just remember when you told me about the title of the Bloods on the Moon, I just died laughing. I was like,
well, we used to make funny films. A roll of film
Bloods
was $16. I'm trying to think how much. No, it was like $30. It was $30 to get it
It
developed.
cost you about
right. To get that's right to buy the film and get it developed. And you had to go to New York to do this.
Yeah,
and so
another whatever back then was the bus ticket.
Right. So you were making films that were, you're literally thinking about 2.5 minutes long. That was always the thing. And Seporin made a bunch of little comedies, so that had an influence. And so making these little stupid, funny films, because being funny, that got a reaction out of people, rather than the serious cancer film. Nobody wants to, it's just because everybody, the film school audience, they're inclined to laugh at everything. The door closes, somebody comes in, things are bad, and everybody starts giggling. And it's like, no, I'm trying to tell a serious movie. It just doesn't work.
I don't want to bash anyone, but I can remember all those movies that were supposed to be serious that the people were laughing at. People get so upset.
I usually make an announcement in my
This is
one
a
class.
comedy.
I do. I said, please understand some of your classmates are trying to tell serious, so don't assume everything is funny. And so what happens though is that so nobody laughs at anything. So the kid who's making a comedy is going, this is the worst film ever. Nobody's laughing. Yeah. It's a tragedy.
It's a tragedy. It's a stand-up tragedy.
It's awful. But yeah, that's but Sucking Lemons, that was a film. I played 3 roles.
Yeah, you were every role in the movie.
Because we did crew and all that stuff, and my then girlfriend, now wife, she was in it, and it won the New Jersey Young Filmmakers Award, which was fun.
I remember that because you got an award, and I got a letter telling me I should never make another film again.
Well, Boris, your films were. So you
said this is an anti-film.
Anti-film. That was an anti-film.
I'm so proud of that.
I forgot that was you because I mentioned I tell that it was anti-film.
It's anti-film. This is not.
This is like the most.
And I was like, I thought this was the best compliment I ever got.
That was it. It's anti-film.
We watched this, and we all agree in the jury that you should never touch your camera again.
And it's funny now because we've all been on that jury now. You would never think about saying that to a student,
But I was showing that letter to people. Look at this.
Proud.
I'm so proud of this.
You do that now, kids on. Don't forget it. All right, look, your kids now, if you were to write something, they call their parents.
Oh, yeah. I always loved people who hated me. When we screened the Underdog documentary in DC, I forget what the Doc in Progress, what everything was. Most people loved it. It was a French lady in the audience. Just hated it. I mean, she just hated it. And I thought I was the best. It's like,
she's French.
Go
And
for
she
it.
hits it.
This is good. I don't want to do something everyone loves. That sucks.
I'm making anti-film.
I want something people hate. I'm like, that's passion.
That's
true hatred.
The underdog film. I don't know if I've seen the whole film.
I'll post it online since we couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Yeah. You
You
were interviewed on G4, was that the channel, right? That was the
G4.
game, what was the...
yeah, it was back then. It was a game show.
Game show, yeah. So, yeah.
It was the most bizarre thing. We were there. This is going back 10 years ago.
Yeah, it was. I remember that. It was exciting.
It was a guy who did all the alien or predator creatures or whatever. Maybe I forget the guy's name. Like really well known special effects guy, and us. I'm like, what's the standard for this? It's like I'm like either somebody made a mistake of booking us, or this poor guy is just hitting the bottom. Yeah, it's like you're helping so much, and you're booking me.
It's underdog. I'm
like
like Superman.
Well, even better was Jimmy Kimmel because we were in the green room where she was dancing, and
wait, she was on Kimmel.
She was on Kimmel,
right?
Yeah. And he was going to plug the movie. She told him not to.
I remember this. That's right. I remember because you guys never got
like looking at it like, why shouldn't I?
Yeah,
like, why are you here? I'm like, oh, there goes the whole freaking idea of coming here. And then David Alan Grier was in the same show, sitting next to her. I can't find the footage of that. I'm sure I have it somewhere. It was like 2006, I think. It was a long time. And he thinks this is a joke. The underdog is like Andy Kaufman. He thinks that this is a comedian just pulling a prank.
Really? He has no idea.
He has no idea that this is serious.
A real person.
Halfway, because he's there and she came after. So he moves over and she's talking to Jimmy Kimmel. In the middle of the conversation, he realizes that she's serious. He thinks this is a joke, it's a prank, it's like Andy Kaufman thing. And all of a sudden, his face just changes from like a smile to like horror. Because he's like, I'm sitting next to somebody that can, I don't know what's going to happen.
Yeah, she killed me right now. This is being on TV.
And he was plugging like a stand-up at some comedy club. But she was saying that she's going to Atlanta Film Festival. Mm-hmm. So he was nobody there.
Yeah. Poor David.
You man are doing some comedy club. Oh,
I'm off to a film festival.
I wish I could find that footage.
It's got to be somewhere. Yeah, it's got to be somewhere.
But it was like, just, he doesn't say anything. Just the look on his face changes when he realizes that she's serious.
I still can't believe you got her and you managed to make that work.
Most of it, thanks to Leon. We went through hours and hours of footage.
Yeah, to deal with that.
Yeah, well, so then NYU, when did you assist Spike? When you were a senior? You were a graduate student. Last year or first year?
No, that was, trying to think, it was my third year there. It was announced that he was going to be there. And the Dean Mary Schmidt-Campbell, who's she's the president of Spelman College now. And I met her the very first day she came to work. I read in the announcement that she was going to be our new dean. I saw a picture of her. I get on the elevator to go up to the film department. She's on the elevator. And she asked me a question or something, or I asked her, I said, hey, congratulations, you're the new dean. I'm in the film area, and I was, that's on 10, and I think, your office is on 12, that kind of, we had a nice, so we always had a nice conversation. We always had a nice thing. So it was announced that Spike was going to come back, because NYU never did a good job at having its former students come back. They had posters on the wall. Never, ever, ever. And when I was there, we went through 6 deans in the 5 years, or 6 chairs of the department in the 5 years I was there. And as a friend once remarked we were having another meeting with the students. We were very upset. He said, good films get made in spite of the administration, which that to me was like the greatest line ever. I've used that as an adult often. And she came, and one of the things she wanted to do was reconnect with faculty. So she reached out to Spike and had Spike come, and that was going to be a big announcement. And she made this announcement, and in the middle of that announcement, I asked if I could be his teaching assistant.
Oh, good move.
Yeah, I was like, look, I'm black. And I had been a TA for 3 years. I had taught all the students who were there. I was the senior most TA. It's like, come on. It's like,
well, if you don't ask, you're going to get it.
No,
so
and she said, well, we haven't talked about that yet. I said, well, you can't expect Spike to handle attendance and to deal with all the requirements and all that stuff. And Spike looked at her like, I'm not handling any of that stuff. And so, a couple of days later, I got a note, you'll be his TA. And I was like, well, that was it. So, yeah, so Spike was, he was great. Yeah, he was a nice guy. He's very serious. And he's exactly exactly how he comes off. He was very good to students. And he works there now. He's really good, really encouraging to students, would really, really help out and do whatever he could with the students. A lot of it was, the class was just one-on-one stuff. So
it was independent stuff?
Yeah.
For the grad students?
Yeah. So the students came out of those meetings just really floating on air, and he would always say to me, that kid's really super talented and all that stuff, and, that kid needs to do some work. And he asked me to, what I was doing over the summer, and I said, I don't know. And he said, well, I'm making a film. So he asked me to be his assistant. Chris, would you please? I said, well, Spike, let me look at my schedule. It didn't happen that way at all. So then I ended up being his assistant, which he called the director in training. And what it was I had to, they had a video tap on the camera.
That was thanks to Jerry Lewis.
The video tap?
He claimed, his late Jerry Lewis claimed he invented that.
Did he really?
That's the story.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I don't know if that's true.
It might have been, right?
Claimed.
Yeah. Who would claim that they created, of all the things that you've created, the video tap? So that was the thing. So they had this big little monitor, this little 3-inch Sony monitor that moved all around. And I would connect a little wire to it, and I had a high 8 recorder with all these batteries and all of these cassettes, and I would sit there and hit play or record, and I would record all the takes and stuff. And it was just to kind of be there and watch him work, and that was fun. It was really
Crooklyn. Right?
Crooklyn, yeah. So it really, that was one of those things where being on set, I looked around and went, okay, this isn't some impossible thing.
No.
It's like once you see how something is made and you're like, okay, I thought this was magic, but it's not. It's just people working hard. It's like, it's doable.
Compared to construction site.
Right, yeah, that's exactly what it is. That's exactly what it is. It's that, right. But, to be in charge, you have to have the vision and to do all that. Yeah. But then you have all of those people who are helping you along the way. So, from making short films and doing all that, it became like, okay, I can do this. Then it's a matter of money and getting money together to make a film. But actually going through all of that certainly inspired me and every young kid who was working on that production then.
Did you work on rehearsals? Did you tape rehearse? I know you used to tape rehearsals just so Do the Right Thing. If you get the special edition DVDs or rehearsals.
I don't know what a DVD is because I don't touch media.
Okay,
so
8-track. Was it 8-track?
I don't deal with this.
I think you used to tape all the rehearsals, which was interesting to see for a film student, like the process of discussion between the actors and people putting different points of view, and which you never get in the film school.
I was there during a lot of it, but I wasn't recording any of it. It wasn't recorded. Because it was a family drama, he had the family who was Alfre Woodard and Delroy Lindo were the mom and dad and these 5 little kids. He had them do things like go to the momovies together. Had him drive. He drove a little French Citroen car.
Oh, wow.
So Delroy had to learn how to drive it, and then they took it into Manhattan, from Brooklyn to go to the movies, to go out to dinner, to kind of figure out how to work together. He did a big cast read through and all that stuff, and worked through stuff over a course of 2 or 3 days. But that was it. I'm sure he worked with the other act, but I wasn't there for that part. And I don't know if Alfre, I think she was working on something else, so she may have come later in the process, with just like a week or 2 to go. But I'm sure there was a lot of stuff that happened that it was completely over my head. Like Spike, it was announced on the radio that he was getting married, and this was a big deal. And I had been with him, in my little capacity for, a month. And I had no idea. So I realized I'm a tiny little person who just happens to be near him, not in his world at all, and that's good.
Yeah.
To know that, I'm not. So when I read things now about how people, I worked with this person, you don't know anybody.
No.
You don't know. My neighbor told me this once. She remarked here. She said, "You never know what goes on in somebody's house." I said, and that was it. You don't. You have no fucking idea. Yeah, but that was fun. The guy who shot it, Arthur Jaffa, he shot Julie Dash's film "Daughters of the Dust," which is just a beautiful film. I think it's in the National Registry. It's these black women in islands in South Carolina. It's a beautiful, beautiful film, and he had never done anything, so Spike wanted to work with him, and he was like a free form, more of an experimental filmmaker, whereas Spike was very regimented, and so watching how they navigated dealing with each other was, because they're two completely different artists.
Did that
and
cause
watching
friction?
I think that there was. I think there was friction because Spike was, this is how it's going to be, whereas Arthur was more of a, let's see what happens. Oh, that's like, that light is nice. Let's do something here. Whereas Spike knew exactly what he wanted to do day in, day. Yeah, and they're just two completely different people. But it's fun because Arthur, and there was another guy there who's there, I forget his name, I completely. Anyway, he's married to Solange now, and they've made some music videos with Solange. They're just stunningly beautiful, and that's more of the aesthetic. But it was fun if you watch the film Crooklyn. When I watch it and I look at some of the aesthetic, I can see how that little bit of friction actually helped. You know, whenever my students, and you know this, when the students come back and say, "Oh, we had a great production, everybody got along, I'm like, I'm sure the film's going to be terrible. You know? I want to hear, like, I hate that son of a bitch. I never want to work with him again. I couldn't stand this. I'm like, okay, that film might be good, you know, because people were, working stuff out.
I think that's unfortunate. What's going on today is that they look at discussion as problematic.
Right. Yeah.
They don't want to offend anyone for any reason. And they'll just shut down and let somebody usually with less talent take over
the bigger mouth,
and ruin the whole thing. And I'm like, no, figure it out.
No, and I'll ask students. I'll say, well, what happened? Well, we didn't want to say anything. And I'm like, you're gonna get crushed. You're gonna get crushed. So being on set when you have two personalities who are working, I mean, that's just how it works. I mean, sometimes you'll have long-term collaborators. That was the other thing. So because Arthur was new coming in, or AJ, which was new coming in, Spike had already worked with a whole bunch of people.
You worked with Nickerson.
Yeah.
So this is the first movie that somebody else shot.
Right. And so, but his whole crew, they were all the New York crew, because they were only
everyone knows everyone.
I was always told that New York can handle 3 major productions at any given time. That's as many crew
6
people.
months you get everyone.
That was it, right? And so it was the same crew. So Spike would yell and scream, and the guys had all been with him for the longest time. And he would turn around and start laughing, and they would laugh, and they would know how to say stuff to him and all of that. And I realized that number one, it's not rocket science; it's a construction site, and everybody's at any given time going to be pissed at people, and you're just getting through the day. End of the day, all right, see you tomorrow, goodbye, and you come back tomorrow, and you're making a widget.
Well, that's all it is. And I used to love the people on the street, especially in New York, watching for hours, and nothing's happening to them. Like, just don't, like, so what's anything going to happen? Like, it would take 3 hours to the whole thing. Just 3 hours. I don't have time for them. They'll get mad and leave. I'm like, who asked me to stay?
Where's the star? When am I going to see them act? It'll happen in a tiny. This is literally going to be a 1.5 minute moment in the film. That's it. It's going to be very, very quick.
How long does it take to make it? Months.
Yeah.
What, for 2 hours?
Yeah, for 2 hours. Well, it's like when Law and Order would be in New York. I mean, they would just roll in, and just take over a corner, shoot something, and just disappear. And that was it. I can't imagine what it takes now to make a film with modern technology as it is. Because thinking about what film requires, like light meters and all of that stuff. And I don't mean like a big production, because they're going to have, but like a younger, if somebody's starting out, kids making their first film, they probably move pretty quickly.
I don't know.
I don't know
if that. I don't see it, at least on a smaller scale, that it's any faster. You end up shooting more. But people don't think.
Yeah.
So you think less, we shoot. I don't know.
Yeah, you think less.
I don't like the process. I used to like the film because it made you think. And any one mistake you made ruined the whole thing.
Everything.
So you had to really know exactly what you want and how to do it. And you didn't see your footage till at least a day later.
No, I mean, you remember driving back from the lab. I remember being in the Lincoln Tunnel in traffic, opening up my 16mm reel just to hold it up to see if there was an image, you know? It's like,
Yeah.
You know, I was desperately wanting to do that.
But because you could see it right away, then you see all the imperfections, so you go back, I'll do one more, I'll do one more.
Yeah.
But you're doing it for probably the wrong reason.
Well, this is, let's get one for safety. I go, what? If the card's corrupt, you're screwed. What are you talking about? Like, you know.
Well, you played it back.
Yeah, well, that's the other thing. Right? Just sit there and everybody watches TV. You know, they're recording and everybody, actors come, what do I look like? And so,
Yeah. I do the middle school students. We make films. And every time they record, everybody crowds around and they want to see. So they're spending all this time rewatching what they just did and giggling about it, and then.
Yeah, but I wonder though how much is because those kids are going to grow up, and are they going to conform to the old ways? Because the way that we're used to it is the way it was done in the 40s and handed down. Are they going to come in and say, you know what, we can shoot so quickly now that we can?
I'm still waiting for cinema screens to be vertical instead of horizontal.
Please. Don't get me started.
How many students do you have to do that, actually?
My brother-in-law actually defended that, and
vertical video?
Yeah.
See,
I couldn't hurt him, but
part of the problem is Instagram because of that. But my thing is always, where's your intended viewing experience? If it is just on Instagram, that can only show, right? Am I right? Instagram can only show vertically.
Can you do
I think, and Vines, I think, were also like
that. Right. So you're forced to do that. But with a phone, you can turn it this way and it auto rotates. And then if it's on television or on a monitor or on your laptop, boy, I'm looking at a third of my screen. Yeah. Forget it. I'm ready. I'm going to throw everything out the window. I don't even want to see it. Just turn your camera. Just turn it that way. So then I have the option.
There's actually a video on YouTube that I show them.
Is it the puppet?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is I forget the girl's name, but they did an old TLC song.
Waterfalls.
It's waterfalls, but it's turn your phone sideways.
Oh, really? Yeah. See?
And so it's all these YouTube stars talking about turning your phone so that it takes up the whole screen.
Yeah. Well, nobody wants that. It's just, I got a nice screen and my phone I want to use and watch the whole thing.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't. That to me, that's going to shake itself out. But I also remember when we were shooting 16 and it was a 4:3 image.
Yeah.
And I remember when we were shooting Super 16 was
just a little bit more.
I'm trying to think what it was. It certainly wasn't 185. What the hell was it? It's 160. It was 69, right? It was approximately 69. And I remember being in film school. The same kid who I was talking about before, who talked about good films being made here in spite. Everybody was clamoring for, we want to shoot Super 16. Our camera should be Super 16. NYU, please go pay and do this. Everybody was bitching, and he goes, there are some beautiful images that you can create with a square. And I remember the silence in the room. And I remember thinking, wow, man, this is like, where's he coming from? I said, yeah, he's right. I have watched beautiful 16. That's right. Square. Boy, there were films made before that were shot on 16. That are square.
Look at some of the great stuff from the 20s.
Yeah, no.
It's like, what do they have?
Yeah, that's it. And I realized, okay, so that part of me screams at the other part of me when I bitch about vertical video, thinking, okay, if they're using the vertical frame in a creative way, versus it usually is just it's usually just this. Yeah. Right. There's no thought. Yeah. It's laziness. But I'm sure somebody is going to start being creative with that.
Well, you can do. I've seen nicely done vertical animations to social media, and obviously, but they use the format for fill up the frame and composition. It's not an accident. They're doing it on purpose because that's what the client set up
requires. Right.
So in the film, because of the movement, we're not going up and down. You have the stairwell.
But see, you just said a stairwell. So is somebody gonna? I'm sure somebody can figure out a way to make that beautiful, just like the way we've made. Obviously, the way we see is.
I don't think it's as natural for movement. Maybe for still image, you can.
So you're being negative. See, that's it. See,
I'm limiting yourself.
You're limiting yourself. You're limiting yourself.
Well, I know they already use like the portrait format you see in like malls. Sometimes they turn the screen sideways, and for advertisements and stuff. So, they're kind of using it. But one of my students use it.
Oh, forget it.
Yeah, but that's usually
they're not
again because it's not intentional.
Yeah.
See, this is the thing. If you're doing it intentional, I can support that. But it's usually just laziness.
But that goes back to they're not thinking about it. They're just recording lots of things.
Right.
Oh, and they always want to do bloopers. They always want to do, and they're
God.
like, "Can I put that at the end?"
Oh, thank you. Oh my God.
I had 20 minutes to move
a 2-minute film with
I
10
can't
minutes of bloopers.
stand that. Between that and people making trailers for a film, like just make the fucking film. Like it doesn't cost you anything. You get your friends together. You have a camera. Go make something. We were going to make a trailer for a film, and I remember Professor William, do you want to see this trailer? No, make the film. It's not hard. Come on, you don't have that much going on. It doesn't cost you anything.
The trailer's 30 seconds. The film's going to be 3 minutes.
Oh, come on, a trailer for that. Between that and titles that go on, like, somebody I don't know, in a film directed by some kid who happens to be in my class, starring his roommate with his mother. Like, shut up. I always say the same thing. Unless you have Will Smith in your film, like, don't give me anything. Give me these impressive titles for a crappy film. No, just give me the title of your film, let it play, and then at the end.
Watch the movies from the 50s. The
I
credits are like 30
Don't want to hear it.
It's like
don't
10
want to
people.
hear it. No. Starring some guy I've never heard of.
That should be a title.
Some guy you've never heard of, right?
Directed by another guy you've never heard of.
And it fades up, and it's so dramatic, and the music, because they all use score. Come on. That's it. Right. So this is us, bitch. Now this turned into bunch of old guys.
This is the vision there. The 3 guys and do the right thing.
Right, yeah, this is it. Right. This is us on the corner, right.
When are you going to get a movie?
Right. Let me tell you.
When are you going to get
money to make a movie? Go make a movie. Didn't he just die? Paul Benjamin, he just died, right? Yeah, and Robin Harris died.
Mm-hmm.
Frankie Faison.
He's the only one. And
yeah.
He's the only one clever.
He lives here in town. Yeah, I think so, yeah. I thought he was... I don't know what he's...
Only, but those guys, that seems so funny, especially with Mike Tyson.
Yeah, Mike Tyson. I saw Mike Tyson. What is that? So rob somebody.
Rob him like an old hat.
Yeah. That's great. I have to watch that movie again. I watched it maybe 3 years ago, and man, that's a great movie. That's a great movie. I've been watching older movies last summer. I try to spend at least. I do this like when I graduated from Montclair State. I realized I didn't know and see a lot of films. Like taking Janet Cutler's class and Tomlinson's class and film studies classes and stuff, realizing there's just a slew of films, and I tried to watch 100 films in 100 days, I would go to the library and take out VHSs, and I'd sit at a little table with the VHS and a little 13-inch. No, and I would just sit there and just watch them, and I gave myself 20 minutes. If I wasn't with it in 20, I'd just take it out and watch something else. I wasn't going to force myself to watch something. So each summer now, I've tried to do like 30 films in 30 days, that kind of thing. Last summer it worked out well. This summer's
Are you interfering with your watch time?
No. Well, yeah, I have.
We should be watching the movie right
the
now.
movie Singles, which is one of my favorite movies. I hadn't seen it since it came out, so I needed something light. And then Eyes Wide Shut, the Kubrick movie.
The British version of the U.S.
I don't even know what. I'm not sure what version I have because I don't have media. I watch it. I watch it online.
I forgot to turn my phone up.
I watch it online, so I don't know which version I have. Okay. There's a British version. Is it?
It's
longer.
I don't know.
Or does it not have the digital people in it? Okay, yeah. That's the one I'm watching. I'm sorry,
the Americans are juvenile morons that can't handle.
Can't do it. It's a
man ass for 2 seconds.
No. God forbid we see a pee-pee. It's the whole world is gonna end.
It's a tragedy.
That's it. Yeah. Yeah, because that's the movie's really. So I love Tom Cruise, and I do. I'll fight anybody who says otherwise. It's just, because he shot all that New York stuff in London, and with background plates and all this kind of stuff, which is just extraordinary. So I read a lot about it. This guy Malik Saheed, the DP, shot all this stuff. Who worked on Crooklyn? And he's made some wonderful. I didn't realize he was involved in shooting some of that stuff, so I wanted to watch the movie again. And it's and I'm reading scripts for the script competition. And it's just so I'm counting.
How painful is that?
It's funny reading scripts because a good script, like a good book, you just start reading.
Oh yeah,
and you're just in it, and suddenly I'm on page 30, and I'm like, oh, and I stop to do something else, and the characters are still in my head. I'm thinking about, but boy, to lumber through a bad one is just. But it's wonderful to read them because then I become a much better writer, having read so many scripts, particularly bad scripts. But people try, so I always have that side. Like I'm not going to slam anything because it's a monumental thing to make a film, and it's a monumental thing to write a script, and I respect people who do that. So I always,
it's an effort.
Yeah. So whenever anybody asks me, I want your opinion, I'm like, okay, do you want to hear what I have to say? Do you want criticism, or do you just want me to be nice? And some people take a moment and think, what do I want? Give me the criticism. It's like, okay, well, I'm going to start here. And it's like, because I'll nitpick anything. And, the students who I know who in class particularly, and the scripts I read, I always write them. A lot of comments because I want the writers to be able to have something. But I always, I'm ultra critical about every single thing. Every single thing. I tell the students, you're going to hear my voice in your head. I want to be nitpicking. I wasn't nitpicking with you, right?
I still hear your voice.
No, you don't.
Yeah, because we were watching the film I made in your class, and you were like, just shut it off. Just shut it off.
I did not say that. But
you did. You're just shut it off.
I've seen enough.
I didn't say that.
Like, yeah, you did. I was like, I don't blame you. It's not.
I didn't say that.
Yeah.
At least you didn't rip the film out of the projector.
Our favorite story. That's right.
Oh yeah.
Oh, that's right. There. Yeah. I'll tell you that when we're not recording. I didn't say that to you, did I?
That's the way I remember it.
You're misremembering.
It's like memory's not that reliable.
And so is Chris Corey, because he told me something else. I said to him, I said, I refuse to believe it.
No, I believe it. You were a little bit ornery, but that was good.
Well, it's funny because the students, it's probably, I'm guilty of students that I don't want to say that I like, that I know have talent. I tend to be a little, and I remember supporting, I was like that. He told me that once about how he goes about it. So it's funny to hear, and when I meet students who end up being successful and they tell me this stuff, I'm like, okay, well, that makes sense. Because I've met other students who are, not doing or having anything to do with film. They're completely, and they go, oh, you were the greatest teacher ever. And I'm like, okay. That's right, yeah. We had a lot of fun. That's right.
I felt really bad, too, because the film I'd made before I was in your class, for the film one, I thought it was pretty good, and people seemed to enjoy it. And then after your class, I don't know, people seemed to enjoy that one, too. But for some reason, you just hit me at a bad semester.
That was in film 2, right?
Yeah.
So this is what happens. So you make a successful first effort. The second one hopefully you try to push yourself, and I say this. Hopefully you push yourself so hard that it doesn't work out because you were trying to do stuff and you didn't have all the tools, but you didn't just try to replicate what had already been successful. That's why when in music and stuff you hear the sophomore slump, and I'm like, no, normally artists are trying to expand themselves, and sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't, because they have to explore. And then by the third one, you start all of that, what you've learned comes into play.
Well, it's common in almost everything.
Yeah,
including sports or anything else. You have a success, then you have to move up. It's probably going to go down, and if you learn something from that, you're going to go up. And it's common in film just as anything else.
So I was your second level, right?
Yeah.
So so that's my.
No, we really don't believe any of this.
Yeah, no, we're just saying. Right. Yeah, no. I'm trying to think. Are you mean when you teach?
That's probably.
Or what?
I should be worse than I like. I don't think I am. At least that I don't think I am. But I think I probably should be.
Yeah.
Because like anything else, most people don't who think they know what they're doing. They need to be told that they don't, especially if they're in the wrong place. Like you know, some people are going to be there. They have no business being there.
Right.
But then, if you don't admit those people in the programs, you don't have programs.
You don't have a program. But some people grow.
That's true. So
some
don't.
people.
I try not to pass any judgment because I had students that I thought had almost no ability, or at least I thought they didn't pay any attention, or they didn't put any effort. 10 years later, I run into them doing well. And they're telling me all this stuff they remember from my class, and I'm thinking, I thought the kid was sleeping every day. So I was like, I'm not. You know what? I'm just gonna let it go. I'm gonna do what I think is the right thing to do, and I don't really understand who gets what.
No,
because when you think this kid's great, the greatest student ever, and they do nothing, and somebody who you think like was sleeping through that whole thing, that kid had like a film on HBO or something. I was like, I thought he was sleeping for all the years it was in my class. No. I'm a nice kid, but like I didn't think it was like retaining anything. That was wrong. But I just let it go.
And it's funny, there are kids I just assume will be superstars, and it's only because from taking that first class to the second one they excelled, and then it never works out because you need that other thing, right? You also need to have that other thing. So if you have the most talent but you have no drive and you're not working at it. It's like an athlete or anything else. If you're not going to put forth that effort, you're just gonna completely sink.
You also have to go learn how to deal with the struggle.
Right.
And that's why I don't like what's going on in general today with the kids. Everybody gets a trophy, so they don't know how to deal with when they don't get a trophy.
Yeah.
And they just give up.
Yeah.
So it's like you don't know how to lose, which is a bigger lesson than winning. Because you can win by accident, right? You just get lucky and you create something and it's great, nobody kisses your butt. But then the next one just sucks. And now you're devastated because what'd you learn from it?
Right. No, I thought it was great. Right. I always got trophies.
Then usually the point of view is that everyone else is an idiot and they don't understand what I'm doing.
I'm the genius. Rather than step back and go, you know what did I screw up? What can I make better? And that's what I try to help students do, is to kind of point out, like, okay, this is what you need to work on. But then sometimes students will say, well, what do I need to work on? I think you just have to keep going. Isn't there any one thing? It's like everything kind of comes into play. And part of it is just your attitude. Like, what happens when you don't get the trophy? Those cold, lonely nights where things didn't work out and you're all alone. What are you going to do? And that trophy that you were awarded because you didn't do anything, you just showed up, that's not going to provide you comfort.
No, the only thing that matters is work. And if you don't enjoy the work, then don't do it. Yeah. And do something else. Because if you're just looking for trophies,
but I don't.
It's too hard just to take it lightly. Like anything else, if it's worth doing, you got to put effort and work into it.
But throw into that, specific to film, that you can now. Okay, so when we were coming up, if we made a film, our class would see it, right? And that really was it. Maybe you'd find a projector somewhere else, you'd be able to show somebody else. Maybe you might be able to show your family.
True, to send it to a film festival.
Right.
Spending a couple of grand
to
my 2-3 minute film to make multiple, what we call a composite. What was
that?
With the sound. The print, what was that called back?
The A and B and the.
No, we had got your negatives, all that stuff, but the actual print, I forget what the hell it was called. Like that was the only thing you could send to the festivals. Yeah, the print with the soundtrack.
Yeah,
it was like a optical print.
Oh, the optical print. Optical.
We're so old that we're talking about technology. Nobody knows.
Nobody knows.
And you would, for my, what was it? That senior project, whatever I did, 3 minute film. I spent like $2,000 back then to make 5-6 optical prints to send to film festival.
Right. It's just, whereas now, you can make the shittiest film and put it on YouTube, and you already have your friends. You put a note on your Instagram or your social media outlets, and people will watch it, and they'll comment on it, and suddenly you feel like, well,
you did something.
Yeah. People are responding. Yeah.
Somebody's gonna watch it.
Somebody's gonna watch, and a lot of the comments might be from friends, people who are not going to be critical, and
your mom.
Yeah, right, or your mom's friend, who's typing under, right, yeah, who's gonna write, boy, what an inspiring job, and you're gonna look at that and think, well, look, I inspired somebody.
I got a trophy.
You got a trophy, right? So it's just another way to get it. Look, I have 15. I remember a kid came in and he showed some video. It was a YouTuber was showing how to do something. I'm sorry. The student made something, and I was commenting on how confusing it was, how I didn't know what was going on, and I explained to him why. I showed clips from other movies about how other people went about doing it. I was making my case, and he said, "Well, this is a video on YouTube, and they did exactly the same thing." And I said, "Well, I don't care what they did." And he showed it to me, and I said, "Well, it's still confusing, and it's wrong. The camera shouldn't be here, and this happened there." I was going into exactly why. I said, "I'm repeating myself." And then he points to how many views it had. Like, "Hey, stupid professor, what do you know? This has 15,000 views. And you're just here teaching. You're just here teaching us." And I said, "I don't give a shit how many views it has. It's still wrong. All those idiots watching, I don't care. Like that. That shouldn't be the thing that is going to define you." And then I said, "You know what? You're right. Keep making fucked up videos. Keep screwing it up, and go with your 15,000 views. And then when people like me look at this, we will know that you're incompetent."
He watched it 10 times.
Yeah, I know. Right.
Probably. Well, there was I was on the panel. I filled in for Jamie. I forget what it was. Was it FDU?
Showing the film.
It was like a New Jersey Film Festival panel. So I filled in for her because she couldn't make it. And when they had a question and answer, some in the audience is a young kid who said, "What's the criteria of getting accepted?" I'm like, "Well, it gets judged by the jury, and then it goes to the main jury. And he goes, "What if I have, I don't know how many followers on social media?" I'm like, "I have nothing to do with anything." And he couldn't understand why him having like 100,000 followers on social media would not get him accepted. But they liked it, so I'm like, it doesn't matter. Right.
It reminds me of all the stuff that the influencers now who all want free stuff, and and all the people kind of rejecting this idea of their first thing is, "I have 50,000 followers. I can bring them all if you give me a free room." It's like, you know what? No, leave me alone.
What was the guy in LA with ice cream? I charge double.
Right, for the influencers. That was it. Right, that was it.
Like,
I can't get out of here. Just
everybody knows those things are mostly fake anyway.
Yeah. Look, and some of the people do. I watch a lot of YouTube. I really try to pay attention more in the past few years, and there's some that are just really, really talented.
There's a lot of good stuff.
Really, really talented. But then there are some that aren't, but they're charming. And so, they're watchable. But it's hard when you think that the deciding factor of quality is the number of views and subscribers and not the information. So if you haven't gone to film school and you've just watched stuff there and you're not critical and you don't have friends who are critical about your work, that really is your only way. So in that ways, I guess it's good as an entry point, but it's bad because oftentimes I'll have students with really bad habits, and I'll say, "Where did you learn that?" And go, "Well, this person on YouTube," and they'll show me the video, and I'm like, "That's not." And I, of course, having a deep knowledge like us, we can go back and go, "Well, going back and show a film from the 80s or the 50s or the 20s to kind of make the point there." And the student just goes, I go, "That's why you're paying to come here."
That's one thing that they don't. It seemed to me, at least, that maybe there's too much stuff going on, and you can't deal with the amount of stuff that's thrown at you now. If you're 20 or 18 or whatever. Like, I was familiar with what my parents were listening to music-wise, let's say. Not that I liked the same type of music, but I knew what it was. A lot of them today, I have no clue what happened 10 years ago. Even movie-wise, you show them like a, I don't know.
The Matrix.
Matrix. And
right.
it's like they're, I mean, some of them seen it, but a lot of them didn't.
They've heard of it.
Sometimes
they haven't even heard of it. Well,
sometimes I mention Godfather, never heard of it. I'm like,
can I tell you, I started showing Godfather in I teach an intro film class. I never showed The Godfather because it was just, everybody saw it.
Exactly.
And now that's
exactly
I tell the class is 2 hours and 40 minutes. I go, we're going to go 20 minutes over. We're watching The Godfather. And so many of the students afterwards, they go, that's a great film. I heard about it. I never saw it before. I've watched some of it, because, whenever some holiday it's on all the time, so they might catch 20 minutes. They know some of the things, but I didn't understand it. And then the discussion about it, about why it's important. I realized maybe I'm better off, rather than showing a whole bunch of films, showing fewer films and just talking about the important ones along the way. But, The Godfather. Geez, I started teaching this cinema studies class because I would get students in my class. This was the class you have to take before the first production class. So I would mention things like, okay, so we're not going to shoot like wide angle like Citizen Kane. We're going to shoot, and the students would say, well, what do you mean? I go, well, didn't you watch Citizen Kane? And no, our professor said he doesn't like that. He's bored with it. And I go, who gives a shit with your professors? And I started asking the students, what films did you see? Any film noir? No. Okay, what did you watch? And they'll mention some film that came out 4 years ago. I go, okay, that was a good film, but it's not
history.
No. I said, any musicals? No. And that's when I started teaching. So I teach 6 classes now. I teach a lot of those introductory courses of Citizen Kane. So we watch Citizen Kane, then I spend a whole class dissecting why it's the greatest film. So then some of you aren't going to like it. I can guarantee you, most of you, it's not going to be your favorite film. But once I go through why people consider it, you'll at least appreciate it.
You have to understand it. So you don't have to like it. I think a lot of them, even in the intro to film class or any of that small stuff, they just they think they're supposed to like everything.
Right.
It's like, it's not about liking.
No. But the opposite then is, so to move us from being the old grouchy men, the one thing,
nowhere to go.
The one thing I do love about the kids is their within the freedom of equipment and stuff, that they don't have to worry about things we had to worry about. Like, we had certain barriers to our creativity. So we could have something in our head, but we had to get through all of these barriers before we could present it. Now, we can argue that some of those barriers were good, that it forced us to make our end product. But sometimes I'll get a student in one of the first projects, I get them shooting right away. And I'll just have them run out and shoot something. Some of them come back with such creative, inventive ideas. And this goes back to that Darryl Wilson guy I had, where he's like, shoot the sky, shoot your feet, And some kids will come back with stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's interesting. Where'd that come from? And the kid goes, I went outside and there was a bird there. And then I noticed that there was chewing gum on my shoe. And I'm like, okay, tell me more. And I'm like, okay, I'll get taken away. And I'm like, okay, I'm with you. You did something, I'm captivated by it, and kind of appreciate the fact that they were able to instantaneously shoot something with their phone or shoot something with their camera or immediately visualize something and imagine a transition, a dissolve. Remember, we couldn't do a dissolve, right? So they knew, I I wanted to make a dissolve from the cigarette to the smoke from the chimney. We could never do that. We could not do that.
Yeah, you'd optically burn.
No, right. You couldn't that. So if you had that idea, you had to push that idea out until you could afford to pay for the optic and learn the process to be able to do it. Whereas now a kid can do it. So.